Japan. It's a country where Japanese things happen regularly. And there are many reasons why you should want to travel here. But is the actual PC gaming experience one of them? Well, that's what this video is here to find out. Now, I've been living in Japan for more than a year now, and I've been building my tech YouTube channel here, and I've been a PC gamer here, and I've decided it would be interesting to talk about what it's like building a PC and actually gaming in Japan. Now, the first thing to take into account when actually considering the gaming experience in Japan is to see how much it costs to build a PC compared to building a PC in the States. Now, one of the things that makes this fairly easy to do in Japan is the fact that Japan has its own Amazon, which means you can have a fairly apples to apples comparison when comparing prices of Amazon US computer hardware to prices of Amazon Japan computer hardware. Now, what I did is build three different PCs for both Intel and AMD at three different price ranges, going from mid-range to high-end to ultra high-end. So let's have a look what the prices look like in Japan compared to the US. Now, the first build that we're going to have a look at today is a high-end Intel PC that's based around an 8700K and a GTX 1080. Now, in the United States, this PC will set you back about $1,800. That's with a 512 gig SSD, a 3TB hard drive, 16 gigs of RAM, and other goodies. Now, when moving over to the exact same components on Amazon Japan, you're looking at an equivalent cost of around $2,200, which is 20% more, a whole $400 more. This can get you a GTX 1080 Ti and a 1TB SSD, which is a significant upgrade in the US Amazon over the Japanese Amazon. That's quite an unfortunate result. Now, I also did an AMD version of this build with the price difference being fairly similar. Now, the CPU that I used is a 2700X, and the rest of the PC is fairly similar except for the memory being higher speed memory, which is something that the AMD build needs. Now, this means that if you're in this category of building a PC in Japan is not very pleasant compared to the same experience in the United States. Now, luckily, things are looking better when you look at the mid-range. With an Intel mid-range gaming system with something like an 8400 i5 and a GTX 1060 in it, it will cost you around $1,050 in the United States, whereas in Japan you're only looking at about $1,140. Now, that $100 difference is only about 10%, and it does mean that in the US build you would be able to get a GTX 1070, but it isn't as huge a difference as it is with the high end. And when looking at a mid-range AMD PC, they cost pretty much exactly the same in both Japan and the United States. This means that the sweet spot for building a gaming PC in Japan is a mid-range AMD machine with a 2600 and an RX 580 in it, because then you're getting about the exact same bang for buck as you are in the United States. Although things get significantly worse when you look at the ultra high end. The ultra high-end Intel PC that I used for this example is one with a $1,000 CPU in it, which at the time of making this video is a 7920X, and it's got 64 gigs of RAM and a 1080 Ti. Now, in the United States on Amazon, this will set you back about $3,700, and things get significantly worse on the Japanese side, where it will cost you an equivalent of $4,900. That's an extra $1,200 you have to spend, which is 32% more. So it means that when you're looking at ultra high-end PC gaming, you absolutely shouldn't buy a PC in Japan. And things look exactly the same on the AMD side with a Threadripper 1950X and, well, still using a 1080 Ti because there isn't really an AMD alternative to that CPU. Yeah, you're still looking at about a 33% difference in price, which is absolutely terrifying. And unfortunately, this isn't the only thing to consider when looking at building a gaming PC in Japan, because there's also really weird parts availability. Now, the example that I'm going to use for this is PC cases, because it's the most clear cut here in Japan. When looking at Fantex cases, for example, you can easily find something like the Enthoo Pro M tempered glass, which is the case I have behind me here. And you can get it for a fairly decent price. You're only spending about $20 more. But this means that there's clearly a Fantex supplier in Japan. But when looking at more budget Fantex cases, things like the P400 tempered glass or the P300, neither of those are available in Japan yet, and they've been out for dog's years now. And when looking at NZXT, the story stays exactly the same. For some reason, you won't be able to find an H500 here, and you're not going to be able to find a reasonably priced one here for a while. Because what happens is the component, when it finally is released, costs like 3 times what it does in the United States for another month after its initial release here, before going down to a more reasonable price. Now, luckily the situation gets significantly better when you take the internet into account. Japan has some pretty awesome internet. I'm currently stuck with a synchronous 1 gigabit line. That means 1 gigabit up and download speeds, which is awesome because it means that you don't have to worry about cluttering your hard drive with video games because, well, you can just download it when you want to play it and delete it when you're finished. Now, I'm spending the equivalent of about $36 a month for my internet, and I know that in the United States you can get, like a 256 kilobit per second dial-up connection for that, and that isn't even the fastest connection you can get here. You can get up to a 10 gigabit per second line into your house, which is insane. What are you gonna do with that? Now, unfortunately, when it comes to playing multiplayer games online with your awesome internet connection, it's not all hentai sunsets and bukake rubdowns. Unfortunately, it seems as though PC gaming isn't super popular in Japan, because even games with huge online foot traffic like PUBG sometimes don't have any servers with people on them. In fact, if you try and play on a Monday morning when other people are at work, you can sit for up to an hour and a half waiting for a server to play on, and I've actually done that before, which probably tells you more about me than you need to know. This means that if you have a job which means you work different hours from everyone else, you can often not play your favorite games online. Luckily, your internet connection here is fast enough that you can play on Southeast Asian servers with very little lag, and that's usually what I do on my Monday off. And then just on a last note, there is a very interesting second-hand component community in Japan. So if you don't want to buy new PC components, you can go on something called Yahoo Auction, which is very similar to eBay, where you can buy a huge selection of second-hand PC hardware. But unfortunately, the prices on this are still a little bit more expensive than you would find buying components on eBay in the United States. So yes, you can find a really interesting selection of hardware there, but it's not very user-friendly for somebody who can't read Japanese or speak Japanese, and the prices aren't very good compared to eBay or Craigslist in the local area where you live in the United States. And with that, I think I can kind of draw a conclusion. PC gaming isn't terrible in Japan, although PC hardware prices could be better, and that weird availability issue of components means that you often can't buy the best value component for the specific budget that you have, although at least you have really epic internet here. I used to live in South Africa, and the internet there was really terrible, and the hardware prices were even worse, which meant it kind of sucked being a gamer there. Although at least the servers of most games that had local servers, i.e. Battlefield, were packed with players. Let me know in the comment section below if you live in a country where it's way worse to be a PC gamer. I'd be really interested to know what gaming hardware prices are like in Lithuania. That would be awesome. Anyway, if you liked the video, do like and subscribe to the channel for more awkward laughs like that one. And until the next video, bye bye.